was like, Rachel has been here. I was like spreading, it was like magical fairy dust. I really didn't like it. I thought it looked like some kind of witch's costume or something, and it's gone crazy and it was totally insane. So sparkly, glitter everywhere. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am a knitter and a sewist. So this is a slightly unexpected video. I was not expecting to record this, but if you follow me on my Instagram, you will have seen that I think when this video goes up it'll be last weekend, that I went to a lovely hotel in Yorkshire, Yorbridge House, for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, and we had a big celebration weekend. It's actually my husband and my sister-in-law's birthday both around that time as well, so it was sort of like Friday was my husband's birthday celebration, Saturday was my father-in-law's 60th, Sunday was my sister-in-law's birthday celebration, so it was a really lovely weekend. And for his 60th, my father-in-law said he wanted to have a really nice meal, so we had the tasting menu at Yorbridge House, which was lovely. First time I've ever had a tasting menu. He wanted us all to wear black tie and get really dressed up, so of course I had to make a dress for the occasion, because I didn't really have anything that would work. I mean, I did think I could sort of refashion my graduation dress, but I just wasn't sure it was going to be quite right, so I decided to make something. My first ever black tie gown. I've never made anything that smart before, so yeah, it was a little bit stressful. Sorry, my phone's going off, let me just turn that off. Yeah, it was a little bit stressful, I'm not gonna lie. But I posted a reel on, I think it was Sunday, the day after, of me wearing the dress, and it's gone crazy. I think I've had something like 12,500 views and like over 100 comments on it, which is really lovely. So thank you so much if you're one of those people who, you know, commented or liked it. It was really nice to get so many lovely comments on a make, because it was actually a lot of work and a little bit stressful. I finished it on the Thursday afternoon and we left first thing on the Friday morning, so it was a bit stressful, sort of last minute situation. But yeah, a lot of people said that they wanted to hear more about the dress and how I made the dress, you know, the pattern that I used and how I adapted it. So I put up a poll on my Instagram stories and I said, would you prefer that in like chatty stories, or would you prefer that as a full YouTube video? And it was, to be fair, like I think 35% of people said that they would have liked stories, but 65% said a YouTube video. So here we are making this YouTube video, impromptu YouTube video. I didn't get any clips of me sewing it at all, because as I say, I didn't really expect to make this video, to be perfectly honest with you. It was stressful enough like making the dress. I was really worried about it, so it was stressful enough making the dress without making a video to go alongside it at the same time. I think I got some clips of me cutting out the fabric, but other than that, and they were on my phone as well, so that's it. That's all I have. But yeah, let's dive in. So the dress is here. It is the most, I don't know if you can see in the camera, I think you can actually, it is the most sparkly fabric. I'm just going to put up a video actually of me wearing it, the one that I put up on Instagram, just so that you can sort of get a feel for it, see how sparkly it was, see how it moves, etc, so you know what I'm talking about in case you haven't seen it on my Instagram, you don't follow me on Instagram. So yeah, that's the dress. Very sparkly, very floaty, and yeah, the first time I've ever worked with tulle as well as a fabric. It literally leaves a trail of glitter everywhere, this fabric. So there was glitter all over my house, all over my desk, my sewing machine, me, the dog. At Yorbridge House, everywhere I sat, I left a bunch of glitter. So it was like, Rachel has been here. I was like spreading, it was like magical fairy dust. I have to say, this dress did make me feel a lot like Midsummer Night's Dream, you know, the fairies in Midsummer Night's Dream, like Moth, and oh, what are their names? I can't remember. Is it like Moth and Cobweb and like, Anyway, that's what it made me feel like that kind of fairy, like a magical, like Midsummer Night's Dream style fairy. So yeah, and we'll get into that as well, because that was a slight concern as well, like halfway through making the dress. But yeah, it's hanging up here. I will like show you in a bit more detail in a bit, but as I say, I don't want to touch it too much because the glitter just goes everywhere. It's been living in a garment bag, and that's how it's going to live forevermore now, to keep the glitter like encased. I mean, I can literally see like there's like glitter everywhere. Okay, so let's start off with first things first. So I had this idea. Basically, I said to my husband, it was like 4 or 5 weeks before this event was going to happen, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna wear. The thing that I thought I was gonna wear didn't really fit very well, and I was just getting a bit panicky. So I was like, I need to make something, but I was so busy in August, and I was like, I don't have time to twirl. I don't have time to basically make it twice. I just don't have that. So I need to make a pattern that I know is going to fit, a pattern that I've made before. So we got my patterns out and we were looking through my patterns that I've made before, things, you know, dresses that I know fit. And, you know, there was lots of things like the pansy dress, which I've made twice now, that fits really nicely, by Rosary Apparel. That was really pretty, and I was like, I could just make that as a floor length and it would just be a cute little high-necked puff-sleeved dress, floor length, pick some really beautiful fabric. The indigo dress I could make, you know, as a floor length version, change up the sleeves or something. That was an option. But none of them were really sort of exciting me, and I was a bit worried about looking a bit just like fuddy-duddy, you know, just like high-necked, puff-sleeved, long dress. I just wasn't sure if it was quite the look I wanted to go for. And then I had this idea that maybe I could use the Mabel, because I'd made 2 Mabels, this one that I'm wearing actually, and another one, the strawberry one, which if you follow me on Instagram you will have seen. Actually, it's been in some previous videos as well. So I made those 2, and they both just fitted really, really well, and they were really comfortable, and they were actually very easy to make. It's one of my favourite ever Tilly and the Button patterns, because it's very, very different to any other pattern that I own or that I've made, very different to any other Tilly pattern as well, which I have a lot of Tilly patterns, but it looks a lot more complicated than it is, if that makes sense. I also wanted something as well with a lower neckline, so you can see obviously it's not got a high neckline. You know, I feel like when you're occasion wear, especially evening wear, you do want to show a little bit of skin, you know, whether that's your arms or your back, or, you know, your décolletage or whatever it is. You want to, I don't know, I just didn't want to be completely covered up. I felt like that would be a bit frumpy and a bit just not quite what I wanted. So I started looking at the Mabel pattern, and I just had this idea. I was like, what if I made the Mabel but in like a tulle fabric, in a sparkly, like a double layered situation, and I had the sleeves not double layered, so the sleeves were just one single layer that were basically see-through, and the rest of it, and you had like, as I say, like a layer over the top of the skirt. And I sort of looked a bit on Pinterest, and I found some similar things, some ideas of this kind of black tulle sparkly style, and I was like, actually this could really, really work. Let's give this a go. So I went on New Craft House, which is like my go-to for occasion wear fabric. Not that I make that much occasion wear, but you know, if it was a wedding or you know, for my graduation, I had a look on there. That's the place to go, because they sell so many stunning dead stock fabrics, and they're obviously, a lot of them are designer dead stock fabrics, are really high quality and often quite interesting and often quite formal. And they had this gorgeous tulle which I thought was just absolutely perfect. So that's what I decided. I thought, you know what, I'm going to order that, and then I just need to buy myself some simple black viscose, because I knew that having made this one in the cotton and having made the Mabel, the other one, the strawberry one, in a viscose, I knew viscose would give it the drape that I wanted and it would sit right. So I thought I'd just order some plain black viscose, which I actually got from Dalston Mill, and that will be the back and this will be the front. So yeah, I ordered the fabric and it came, and it was totally insane, so sparkly, glitter everywhere. I couldn't believe it, and I was like, this is going to be really mega. I was really excited by the fabric, but I have to admit I was also really daunted by the whole thing. I really was quite worried, and I had an extremely busy August, and I had planned to make it. I planned to start making it at least 2 weeks before the event so that I had enough time, and it just didn't happen. My chronic illnesses were flaring up because of the heat. I was really struggling and I had loads of work on, and yeah, it just didn't happen. So I ended up not starting sewing this until literally like 3 days before the event, which is my worst nightmare. I try to avoid that at all costs now because I have chronic fatigue. I can't just sew and sew and sew and sew. I only sew for, you know, at most 2 hours, and even then I'm really tired. I try to be really restrictive to just 1 hour. So yeah, basically gave myself a lot of stress. But anyway, I did manage to cut it out the week before that, to be fair. So I did cut it out earlier, so I didn't have to cut and sew in the same week. So I started off by cutting out the Mabel pattern in the black viscose, so just everything apart from the sleeves, just as normal, which was fairly easy to do. Obviously with the Mabel pattern, I don't know if you have the Mabel pattern, you will know this, but if you don't get a full skirt piece with it. You get a piece that's big enough to make the top version, and then they say in the pattern, it's, you know, to save paper, that basically if you want to make the skirt version, you just need to measure how long you want the skirt, and you just do the same width as this, you know, sort of top piece, and you go all the way down. So I just measured down to my ankles and I just went, right, that's the length that I want. So I cut that in the viscose, and then I did it all again in the tool. I cut every piece out, and the sleeves as well, the full long sleeves from the Mabel pattern. So yeah, they were basically 2 completely different dresses. Not completely different, 2 dresses, sorry. 2 Mabel dresses, one in tulle and one in viscose. And then I thought that the easiest thing to do with the pieces was to baste them together so that I could sew it as a piece of fabric. So the top pieces, there's 3 different pieces to the top of the Mabel pattern. I basted all of them all the way around the edge for every piece, so that it fit exactly perfectly. So you can see like the bodice and the top are completely together. But for the skirt piece, I really didn't want to do that because I thought that that would not allow it to flow in the way that I wanted it to. I thought that the best thing would be very much like a tulle overlay. So I didn't really want it to be attached down the sides. So I just basted it over the top of the viscose skirt piece on both sides. So it was attached at the top but not down the sides. I also cut the tulle pieces just literally like, I don't know, maybe ½ an inch either side, slightly wider, just to give me a bit more space for the seaming. So yeah, that was the first job, was just carefully baste it all on, and actually it worked perfectly because of the way the tulle is, the stitches don't show up like at all. They just get hidden in this lovely netted tulle fabric. So the basting wasn't really like, I was worried that it was gonna be messy and I was gonna have to unpick it all if you could see it once I'd sewn up the garment, but you literally can't see it at all. And most of it, to be fair, is hidden within the seam allowance, but yeah, it just completely disappeared. So that was both great and also terrifying, because I realised that when I started sewing in a with, you know, obviously not a basting stitch, with a much smaller stitch, that if something went wrong, I wasn't gonna be able to see my stitches at all. So that was slightly terrifying, but I was like, whatever, we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, that was the first step, basted everything on, and then I started sewing everything together as normal. So I decided to start with the skirt piece, because that was the thing I was most concerned about wasn't going to work, because, as I say, the fabric wasn't all attached. So I just followed the instructions as normal. I did the 5 rows of shearing across the top of each skirt piece, and then I sewed the skirt together. But I sewed the pieces separately. So obviously on the waistline, that was difficult to do. So the waistline was where the shearing was sewn together, all the pieces of fabric, the tulle and the viscose, everything together. And then when I got to the end of the shearing, I just sewed the underlayer together and I left the tool, it meant just kind of manipulating the fabric a bit out of the way, and I sewed all the way down the viscose. And then again, turned the skirt inside out, moved it out the way, and I sewed the tool together. And it worked. I was really surprised, but it worked and it looked fine. And that was the thing that I was most panicked about. So I was like, when I finished that was one first session of sewing, I was like, thank goodness for that. It actually works. And I could see that the skirt was looking really good. So I was really pleased. So then the next day I sewed the bodice together, which was fairly simple because, as I say, it was just like sewing a normal piece of fabric together because it was basted all the way round. So I just sewed it as the instructions say you should sew the bodice. And I made a little tie. It was very difficult to make the tie, so I ended up making the tie out of just plain black viscose. I attached the sleeves. Now the sleeves are just tulle with the elastic on the inside, which makes it look a bit like a strap. Maybe I'll just get this to show you. So yeah, it is literally just plain tulle with the elastic inside. This tulle is very, very forgiving, so I didn't have to like finish any edges, which was something I was worried about. I guess if you were, you know, had a bit more energy than me and a bit more time and you were a better sewer than me, of which I'm sure there are many people who are, many people, you would maybe do some French seams or something, but I just didn't have the time, the energy or anything to figure that out. So I literally just, like, they're basically raw edges. Or maybe they're not actually. No, I did tuck them under. But yeah, you can't really see because the tulle is so forgiving. You really can't see. Yeah, I did the sleeves as per the pattern, you know, attaching it with the elastic, etc., as you're supposed to. And yeah, followed the instructions completely normally. So that was the second day of sewing, and that was the Wednesday, bearing in mind we're leaving first thing on the Friday morning. I tried the dress on, so the sleeves aren't finished. They are attached with the elastic in the top bits with the seam sewn all the way down to the wrist, because I knew, oh sorry, yeah, I forgot to say that. This is a bit, I probably should have written a list, shouldn't I? I decided not to do the shearing on the sleeves. I just decided that wasn't quite the look I wanted to go for. I wanted to do something different. I had decided that I was going to do a bias bound cuff, and I had some tulle bias ribbon, which I actually still have, like basically a whole thing of it. So if anybody wants some, let me know, because I'm not sure I'm ever going to use it. So I was going to do that. So I sewed the sleeves up all the way down to the bottom, rather than in the pattern you know, do the shearing on the bottom of the sleeve first, like on this, and then you sew it together along that seam. So yeah, the dress was basically completely finished. The skirt and the bodice were attached. The sleeves were sewn down to the bottom, but they hadn't been cuffed. It had the little tie on it, and I tried the dress on, and I didn't like it. I thought that I looked, firstly, it was quite bulky around the waistline with all those different pieces of fabric. I hadn't actually cut my seam allowance around the waist yet, and I also hadn't given it a press, but it was so bulky. I was really worried about how it was looking around the waist. The sleeves, obviously, I hadn't figured out what I was doing yet with them, so they were just big, long and floaty. It had the tie, like this one does, the traditional Mabel with the tie, and I really didn't like it. I thought it looked like some kind of witch's costume or something. I think because it's got that kind of like peasant feel to it, this dress actually would work really well if you wanted to make like a cute little like witch costume for Halloween, and that's what it felt like. I felt like I'd made a really cool costume for Macbeth. And I was absolutely devastated. I was like, it's Wednesday evening, I don't have the energy to do anything else. Like, I put on my graduation dress and I was like, could I wear that instead? Could I do the sleeves in that instead? And I was sort of like really umming and ahhing. I was like, do I try and fix this dress tomorrow in a couple of hours before I will run out of energy? Because I also had to like pack and sort the dog out. My husband was on a business trip that week, so he got back at 1:30 in the morning on Friday morning, and then we left at 8 AM the next day to go to Yorkshire. So I had no help, I had nothing. It was so stressful, and I was just like crying. I was really close to having like a full meltdown. I was just like not in a good place. So yeah, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I sort of like went downstairs, had some food, relaxed for a bit, came back upstairs, also bearing in mind that it was 29 degrees every day that week. So the house was boiling hot. Putting on a black double layered dress was boiling hot. My office was boiling hot. So the last thing I wanted to do was keep taking the dress on and off and stuff. But I just took a break, sat in front of the fan, had some food, watched some TV, calmed down. And then I came back upstairs and I put the dress on and I was like, okay, what can we do to fix this? So I was like, firstly, I think the sleeves need to just be a very simple end, because I was sort of like, do I shorten them? Will that make it look better? Do I keep them long? I decided that if I kept them long, so I got like a little clip and I clipped them in so I could see what it would look like as kind of a balloon sleeve down to the cuff, and I was like, yeah, that looks quite nice. I'm quite pleased with that. I think that works with the line of the dress. I think it makes the dress look better than going for a shorter sleeve. So that was the first thing. I was like, okay, we'll do that with the sleeve. And then I was like, this tie makes it look like, as I say, some kind of like witch peasant dress, which isn't at all the vibe we were going for. I thought it would look really cute for an evening dress to have a tie, like a velvet bow or something. But no, it looked dreadful. So I sort of just tucked the bow underneath and got a clip and clipped it together at the top like this. And it completely changed the dress. And I was like, actually, that looks like something I could wear. That looks like something that might work, especially if I cut the seam allowance around the waistline, try and get rid of some of that bulk and massively press down over like it was just at the top of the waist, and then like as it glided over my hips, massively press it down because it was just so bulky and poofy with this tool. So yeah, I decided on the Wednesday that that's what I was going to do. So next day on the Thursday, you know, bearing in mind that I had to like work and everything first, I was like at work in the morning stressing out, and then spent the afternoon fixing this dress. I took the tie off, I undid the seam, which was really hard to do. I undid the seams that I had done, you know, like you do with the Mabel, so that it's open at the top. I undid all of that, which was so difficult with the tool. I actually made a few holes, and I was really stressed that I was going to make loads of holes and absolutely ruin it. But I managed to undo it carefully. It took like an hour to undo a tiny, tiny bit of sewing, and I sewed it together so that the top became one. So I'll bring this forward and show you. So I sewed it so that the top wasn't open anymore, so it all became one. And then you had this lovely, 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 like sort of sweetheart neckline, this kind of V-neck with the ruffle on it, which actually worked really well. As I say, got rid of the tie. I massively pressed down around the waistline so that it wasn't so bulky, because you can see it like sits quite proud, this tulle over the top. It can be, it's a bit sort of, yeah. And then I did the cuff. So I was going to do a bias bound cuff, which I tried to do, and I tried to do it about 3 times. Oh, sorry, because I've just held up the black dress, it's like really stressed the camera out. Yeah, I tried to do it about 3 times and it just wouldn't go right. So I was like, you know what, it's worked really well having the elastic here. It makes it look like a strap. It just you can't really tell that's black elastic. It just looks like a strap within the dress. So I'm just going to do that with the cuff. So I literally just did like a standard elasticated cuff. I just measured my wrist with the elastic. I, you know, double folded the fabric, you know, like you would, fold it under a little bit and then fold it again, and sewed it in place, and threaded the elastic through it, and it made a cuff. Again, you know, if you look, like now, I can see all the stitching and I can see like that cuff, but from a distance you can't tell. It just looks like, you know, because it's all gathered, it just looks like the end of a sleeve. I have actually got a picture of the sleeve. I will put it in now, because I took a picture of my bracelet because it was a present. So sorry, the camera really doesn't like putting a big black thing in front of it. So yeah, I did all of that, tried it on the Thursday, like late afternoon on the Thursday, and I went, you know what, I I think it's gonna be okay. I think I've saved it. And it was really sweet because my husband was in Germany and he was texting me the whole day because I was freaking out, and he was like, you've done this so many times, because I do, you've made something for an event and you're freaking out, and then at the last minute you pull it back, you're gonna pull it back. And I was like 100%, I was like, I'm not. I know that I've done that before, but I'm just not. I'm not going to make something that I can wear. I'm going to have to wear my graduation dress, which I really didn't want to wear because everybody else was wearing floor length, and I didn't want to be the odd one out. I was like, it's just going to be awful. You know, he was like, oh, can you go shopping like right now, like the night before we leave, so that you've got something in case the dress doesn't work out? And I was like, no, it's 29 degrees. I'm having a massive chronic illness flare up. I am exhausted. It was just like so stressful. So I feel like it's really important for me to tell you guys this, because I've had so much love on this dress on Instagram, but actually haven't really been honest about the fact that it was probably one of the most stressful things, no, the most stressful thing I have ever made in my life, and probably will ever make, unless, like, you know, maybe in the future I'm going to make a wedding dress or something. That would be awful. So yeah, that is the reality, is that it was just a lifelong stress, a big week-long stress, not lifelong, a week-long stress. And then I got to the Thursday night and I went, I think it's going to be okay. And I hadn't tried it on with hair and makeup or shoes or anything, so I think that was part of it as well, was like trying to envision it, because I had like no makeup on, I was sweaty, my hair was like up in a bun on top of my head, I had my glasses on, like it was not a good look when I was trying the dress on. So on the Saturday night when I put the dress on, my hair was done, my makeup was done, I had my shoes, I had my jewellery. I managed to find some earrings that you've probably seen in the reel that I've actually had for, I don't know, about 15 years. My dad got them for me when he went on a business trip in America, like years and years and years and years ago. They're black, and they're like black gems and sparkly gems, so they worked perfectly. I had a little velvet bag which my mum bought me years ago, which is a vintage original 1930s evening bag, and my shoes were black velvet as well with sparkly bits on, so the whole outfit went together. I didn't have to buy any accessories, I just rooted around in my wardrobe and managed to pull all of this stuff out, which is great. And yeah, it really came off, and I did actually feel really good in it on the Saturday night, which I was so worried that I was gonna feel frumpy, or, you know, I'm struggling a lot with like my chronic illnesses making me very bloated, so I was really worried about how I was going to feel and how I was going to look. But actually on the night I did feel really good, which is the whole point of sewing, really, isn't it? Is making things that make you feel good, that give you confidence. And I was quite excited to post the reel, but I had no idea that people were going to love it so much. And just thank you so much for the love on that, because as I say, it was probably one of the most stressful weeks of my life. The only time I've had it that stressful, I think, was leading up to I was on Kirsty's Handmade Christmas last year, and I was in the Christmas jumper competition, and I had 5 weeks to knit a Christmas jumper in DK weight with ruffles, because that's what I designed, in time for the competition. And the amount of knitting I did and the amount of stress I had, that's what it felt like. It's the same thing. I don't know why I do this to myself. Next time I will definitely, because I knew that this event was happening for so long, I need to start like making things like a month or two in advance, so that it doesn't become like this ever again. Okay, so that is how I made an evening gown, how I made my evening gown. As you heard, not the easiest, but I would definitely recommend like having a go. The Mabel pattern works really well if you wanted to have a go at making something like this, because I was really shocked like how much it worked. Oh, I should probably mention as well, I completely forgot to say that I did also top stitch all of my seams so that you can't see them, so they're all top stitched down inside the bodice, so like towards the bodice, so that it was nice and neat around the bodice, so like around the armpits and stuff, so you can't see any raw edges. Which, as I say, worked really well. It gave quite a lot of structure around the arm, which worked really well, because obviously this sleeve has got no structure to it. It's just floaty, so yeah, that worked very well actually. So those would be my tips if you were going to make one of your own is baste all of your fabric on first if you want to do the 2-layer thing. Make sure that you top stitch all of your seams down so that they sit hidden away so no one can see them. Take your time with it would be my other thing to suggest, and make it as easy as possible by having the elastic cuff and the elastic in the sleeve, because it works really well if it's the same colour as the tulle. It looks like a strap, so it works really, really well. But yeah, won't be making an evening gown for a little while now. So stressful. As I say, I am really, really pleased with it. And now the question I'm having is, I have no black tie events. Who has black tie events? Like, I never go to any black tie events. So do I shorten it to like midi length and then have it as a Christmas New Year party dress that I can wear? I've got like some lovely like pink sparkly shoes and things. Or do I keep it full length because it's quite spectacular and just bring it out rarely when I have an event? So let me know in the comments what you think. Should I shorten it so that I can wear it more? Because that had been my thought when I bought the fabric. I was like, I don't want to make something that I can never wear, because that would be a real shame. So can I make something that I can shorten and wear again? It's like the classic like bridesmaid thing, isn't it? You can just shorten it and wear it again. But like with this you actually can. So you know, that was my thought, was I didn't want to waste all that time, all that fabric, all that money, all that energy on something that wasn't going to get much wear. So the thought was to shorten it, but when I told that to my family, they were like, oh, don't shorten it, don't shorten it, we'll just wear it out for dinner long. But I think I'd feel a bit silly. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Should I keep it long or should I shorten it so that I can wear it more? We shall see. But yes, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it wasn't too rambly, because as I say, I wasn't expecting to make this video, so I had to like try and like think of like how I made the dress and how it worked and go into in-depth detail and everything. So if you have any questions, please do just put them in the comments below and I will try to answer them. You can always as well like go onto my Instagram and have a little look at the dress. There's some pictures up, and there's also the reel as well to have a look at, so you can properly see what the dress looks like. And yeah, I would definitely encourage people to have a go at pushing yourself out of your comfort zone when it comes to making something that you've never made before. I would just suggest that you give yourself enough time. Make it a month in advance so that if it goes wrong you can make something else or buy something else. You have time to not freak out. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. Make sure that you subscribe as well, because my next video is going to be a vlog from Yarndale, which is very exciting. I can't wait to go to Yarndale, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Also, I will be talking a little bit as well about my monthly makes. Yeah, actually probably before the next video goes out. My videos go out every other week on a Sunday morning. Actually, there will be another video before my Substack goes out, but you can sign up to my Substack. The link will be in the description, because I do a monthly roundup of all my makes and everything that I'm reading and doing and all the rest of it. And I think I've said a million times now, but there is a really exciting new launch coming via my Substack in the new year. So if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure that you're signed up. All the details are in the description. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.